Good evening, everyone. I now call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Burlington Electric Commission held on the second Wednesday of the month at 5 p.m. here at 585 Pine Street. Today is January 14th, 2026, and the time is 5:02. My name is Andy Voda. I'm the vice chair. Our chair, Commissioner Laura Bond, is ill this evening, so she's asked me to chair tonight's meeting. So the first item on our agenda is the agenda itself. And I'm going to ask for a motion to amend the agenda with the first item number 12 is that's Commissioner Bond's item, and she's not here to speak to it. So is there a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have an amended agenda. Now we need to accept is there a motion to accept the amended agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. We have our agenda and we have a quorum of commissioners. So the second item on our agenda are the minutes of the December 10th, 2025 meeting. Are there any errors or omissions that any commissioners would like to bring up related to those minutes? Okay. In that case, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the December 10th, 2025 meeting?
Minutes as presented.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay. In hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, I abstain. I wasn't here. Okay. So now we're going to move to the public comment period of our agenda. Is there anyone here from the public, either in the room or online, that wishes to speak at public forum? Great. We've got one person in the room, and is there anyone online? We use the raise hand function, maybe?
Not seeing any on the screen.
Great. Okay, so we'll get started in the room. And so when you come up to speak, if you could just state your name and keep your comments to within 5 minutes, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Hey, my name's Jacob Flanagan. I'm just dropping in. I'm with a group of volunteers that been putting on weatherization events in Burlington. We've actually just completed, I think, our 5th year, so very exciting. But we're looking to kind of build it up and looking for who can we collaborate with. We've talked to members of the TUC and we've talked to a couple of staff members of BED. Want to talk to you guys a little bit about it. Another volunteer, Jody Wu, was planning to do a little presentation here, but the agenda was full and she actually had a schedule conflict. So we're gonna try to get on the schedule for next month, give you a little heads up of what we're doing and what kind of synergies we could do. But I thought I'd just give you all a heads up and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Great,
Jody's my next door neighbor.
Yes. Yeah.
And so she told me a little bit about this. Now, is this the same group? I believe it's the same group that doing like window
Yes.
work. And haven't you guys been to? I believe you guys have been at our net zero shindigs that we do every
Yes.
summer.
Yeah,
in
we've
August.
tabled there a couple of times,
Yeah.
which has been really great. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I dig what you guys are doing. Totally.
Yeah. Great. All right.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank
That
you.
is
Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
a gift.
We'll see you next month.
Yep. Cool.
Great.
We should
Thank you.
make a note if they want to be on the agenda next month.
Did you guys want to be on the agenda next month to present?
That would be great. Yeah.
Okay. Do you need had mentioned 10 minutes. Is that good?
I think that would be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. Thank you, Jacob. Is there anyone who's with us online that wishes to speak at public forum? Okay. In the commission packet, we did receive communication from a member of the public, Pike Porter, who asked that it be included. So if you look at tonight's packet that's available with our agenda, you'll see additional written public comments. Very good. Okay. So the next item on our agenda is number 4, which is the monthly impact minute. Lincoln.
Lincoln's here.
Thank you all, and good evening. My name's Lincoln Sprague. I have sat here before and for the topic of the McNeil budget at the last session, but now I have a chance to sort of introduce myself, provide a little more information, and with the Impact Minute, I'm going to do a very brief overview of just the process of what we're doing there to produce power. And so my position at McNeil, I started in April, is the Director of Generation Engineering and Maintenance. And so not just for McNeil, for the Winooski One Hydro, and for the gas turbine on the waterfront, I'm overseeing any sort of engineering projects, maintenance projects, how to keep these systems running and performing what they need to do for Burlington Electric and for the city. My background is at first an electrician. I was in the United States Coast Guard and got my first electrical training there, working on diesel electric tugboats and buoy tenders. And then coming out of that, I used the GI Bill to ultimately get a master's degree in power systems engineering at University of Vermont. And then worked for 8 years with Dynapower in South Burlington, designing inverters, doing research and development for power electronics projects for a wide variety of power electronics users, primarily battery energy storage and industrial rectifiers. My focus during that time ended up being compliance with regulatory standards. So a lot of fire and electrical safety requirements for the design and operation of equipment. And I also got to participate in industry working groups for the performance standards for distributed generation, typically inverter-based overall, from the bulk grid transmission system all the way down to distribution, where a lot of it was being installed. And now I find myself at BED, where I'm within my first year. I'm fascinated and find myself in a really gratifying position working for the city, working for a municipal utility, doing everything I can to keep these plants, some of them have been running close to 40 years, running strong and producing power for the city. I have a journeyman electrician's license in Vermont. I have a professional engineering license for power systems in Vermont. And I'm proud and very happy to be serving where I am now at Burlington Electric, overseeing the engineering and maintenance of our generation assets. And so for this Impact Minute, that's already been several minutes, I'll quickly review what I typically show during the tour at McNeil, which is a popular item. And I'd love to spend hours getting into the details of every slide here, but I am limited by the name of this agenda item to a minute. So here's a nice view of the plant. Shows the wood yard and the main building. I'm going to then jump to, it's not allowing me to control myself. There we go. A bird's eye view that gives another viewpoint. And the point I wanted to make here is to show this the train tracks at the bottom of the screen, and this train track that comes in here to this trestle where we receive most of our wood. This enormous wood yard here lying next to the plant. And the mindset of this slide deck as I presented is to follow the path of the wood as it comes in to McNeil, goes through all the processes and produces power for us. So here's within the train trestle, this is what it looks like. It pulls in, there's 21 trains. There's a range of how long it takes to unload depending on if all the wood is frozen together in gigantic ice ball chunks. So it's pretty fast in the summer and it's pretty slow in the winter.
Question,
yeah.
From past experience of getting the solids out of hopper cars. How do you get it out when it's frozen?
Well, a lot of labor, also vibrating masses that we attach to the cars.
Good.
But it comes down to both those things very much, especially the labor. And it's quite a chore in the wintertime when they're all frozen.
Actually people taking sledgehammers and hitting it, or?
Yeah, we have between compressed air and metal objects, breaking up chunks and bringing it down. That's
just a comment. It's a good safety discussion, safety moment talk. take it from someone who had somebody who went out on an injury banging on a rail car.
Yeah,
It's always
that
a good one
is.
to talk about. It's just it's a trigger for me. So,
I could understand that, and it has been an issue historically. And we had a good record the last year with no lost time injuries because there have been a lot of actions
hear.
taken to consider that, and it's we take that very seriously, as our colleagues have historically experienced what that type of physical labor can do.
yeah, thank you.
So yeah, this wood drops down out of the bottom of the cars, and then this is sort of the shot as you zoom out and see how all the wood falls down next to this large front loader that will then move the wood into the large wood piles that exist in the yard. And I got this shot to show the scale of it based on this semi truck next to it. These are pretty tall, pretty big piles. And then if you zoom out even more into a panoramic shot, we have 3 piles there. And this is our inventory as of December, where we've built up a lot of wood for the winter run, and we're going to rely on this wood to hopefully run reliably all the way through April. We built, intentionally built this up to give us all the fuel we need. We also have some wood stored up in Swanton in the rail yard that we bring down here. Now, the first step, the front loader's loaded onto a sort of like outdoor to indoor conveyor belt called the reclaimer. These wood chips fall in. You can see this very large electric motor here that's turning the conveyor belt. It brings it in. I'm going to start moving somewhat quickly now to get through this presentation. Falls onto the conveyor belt. This is the first conveyor belt in the system that shoots these wood chips, or well, it carries them right up to the process building. These wood chips need to be processed. They're very rough, high variance in their dimensions and whatnot coming right off the rail. So they go to this process building up this conveyor belt where they then get sorted and ground by, you see another large motor here in the forefront that a lot of electric motors, a lot of electric load and equipment that we work on and maintain. And we grind them up and process them. They get sorted and thrown back out into the system where the wood chips that are the right size fall through to move on in the process. Other ones get reprocessed until they're ready to go. Once they're ready to go, they shoot up this next conveyor belt all the way up into the generating, the main plant where we have our boiler and our turbine. Up there, they get dropped onto yet one more conveyor belt that brings them over to, they're called the surge bin, where we have, is about a 3-story tall steel containment area that stores the wood chips, gives us roughly a half hour of buffer for any issues that occur in the plant while operating. To something happens in the ash system, we have some time to deal with that because we have wood stored up here that we can adjust the rate at which it's fed into the system. These are the augers that meter very exactly how much wood goes into the boiler per unit of time. This is what they look like when they're outside the system. These long augers, they're about 20 feet long, and they turn at a specific rate to give us just the right amount of wood to achieve efficient combustion. And then at that point in the process, we could switch and talk about the steam that we're producing or the exhaust gases that are coming from the combustion of the boiler. And first I'll talk about the exhaust gases. They go through an electrostatic precipitator that catches all the ash and drops the ash to be collected. All the ash that we collect is either used for road construction, or the fly ash, the lighter stuff, we collect it and it's used for agricultural purposes for soil additives. And then it goes through this gigantic steel contraption we're looking at, the catalytic reduction system that uses ammonia to remove the nitrous oxide gases from the gas stream so that we are ultimately emitting flue gas through our stack that is in compliance with the regulations for previously Connecticut renewable energy credits, and the ultimately, like, what is the standard for using a biomass plant to produce power to comply with the the environmental regulations that exist to be as clean as possible. Now,
I have a question on that.
Yep.
Is it different by state? Because you mentioned the Connecticut?
Yes, I believe it is. Others could speak more authoritatively on it, but I do believe that for energy credit markets within their different realms, there are, and for different fuels burned, there are different limits for different emission chemicals. So if you're burning gas or for different fuel types, you have different limits for what you're allowed to emit.
And what is the limit on? Is it on NOx or is it on something else?
In
NOx specifically for this system and what is relevant to us.
in Connecticut, they had a specific NOx requirement for meeting their renewable energy certificate market. So this system was put on back in 2008, 2009, and reduced the NOx emissions then in place at the plant by, I believe, a third or more. Lowered them to a third of the standard. So a significant reduction in the NOx emissions, and we've been able to maintain that. So well below, I think, state federal standards, but at the standard that's required for the renewable markets.
Commissioners, I'm going to ask that we hold our questions and let Director Sprague finish, and then we'll do a round. Each commissioner will get a question, and maybe we'll do a second round, and we'll follow just to keep us on track.
Okay. So this was the exhaust path of the ash and the flue gas that have now been dealt with. The steam, they're both useful, but the steam, especially useful for producing power, gets sent to this 60 megawatt rated steam turbine that is electrically and in terms of power the heart of the plant that has been producing power since 1984 for the city of Burlington and the greater area, the bulk grid into which it injects power. Through our switchyard that we have sitting there next to McNeil, which that's really the end of the road. That's where we connect to transmission and distribution lines. And you've now seen the full path of the wood diverging to a couple different end states, as it were. So with that, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this very brief virtual tour of the plant. And if you're interested in a real tour, we provide those, and I enjoy seeing any of you there. That's
great. Thank
now
you.
for any questions, if you
Yeah,
wish.
thank you very much. Scott, do you want to start since other folks have any questions?
I'm good. I've been to the McNeil many times, and I find it fascinating every time I go. And if any of you have not been to there, I strongly suggest you go. It's very and to the Winooski one. It's fascinating.
Great. Other questions?
I just want to say thank you. This was wonderful. And I did a tour a month or two ago, but you, I think, were out and I didn't get to see this. So this was really helpful context, and I would like to do another tour now that I saw that. Thank you.
Include me on that tour as well when the weather warms up.
Sure. We'll put you on the list.
Yes, when the weather warms. You enjoy it more.
Great.
All right. Well,
Thank you very much. That was excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent.
Great. All right. So now we'll move to the commissioners. We're moving to the commissioners' corner, which is a discussion. Do any commissioners wish to be recognized to speak during commissioners' corner? Okay. Now we'll move on to agenda item number 6, which is the general manager's update. General Manager Springer.
Thank you. So sharing some good news from December that you may have seen. We did have our Moody's credit rating affirmed A3, and of note, as part of that update to the credit opinion, we actually saw scorecard metrics that were stronger than they've been really since, I think, probably the pandemic, before the pandemic timeframe. Typically, we've been rated A3, but if you've looked at the scorecard metrics, they've been just a notch below, and they do a notching action based on other factors that has brought us to A3. This current credit opinion, we scorecard rated at A3. So that's a reflection of stronger financial metrics that have been getting increasingly better as we've come out of the pandemic, and is a testament, obviously, to the entire organization's work and efforts. Appreciate Emily in particular for the work on the Moody's review that we did. And so that's good news. Additional good news, the PUC back in December approved the changes that had come through for the Energy Assistance Program. So we can now offer that 12.5% bill discount to residential shelters that are serving the unhoused community, as well as certain affordable housing providers if they are paying the bill for all of the residents and all of the residents qualify, and the benefits would be passed on to the residents. So that's a good expansion of our EAP program, and we're appreciative of that. There were several other tariff approvals came through in December. Of note for the commission, the miscellaneous fees have been approved. Long odyssey that we've had with that. Those will go into effect April 1, not April Fool's Day joke. They really are going into effect April 1. And we've done some work on outreach through a variety of channels to let customers know, in particular, about the meter removal, fee that would have impact if somebody's upgrading their electric panel, for example. And we've encouraged customers who are considering that type of project to do an upgrade before then if they'd like to avoid the fee. Obviously, some customers may not be able to do that, but we've listed the new fees on our website, and we'll look forward to having those implemented April 1st. There were some other tariff updates that are in the report as well that I won't go over. December, we had the RFI issued for a follow-up to the Valerity report. So we're looking for vendor level information on the 3 technologies we discussed: the organic Rankine cycle, carbon capture, wood pyrolysis. We've included some, thank you, Commissioner Williams. We included some items around, risks and safety with each of the technologies, partly on the discussion that we had here, as well as getting cost information, detailed kind of granular information. Those responses are due March 20th. We're hopeful that we'll get a number of good responses. We've shared it as widely as we can. Certainly, if there are any in your networks who might be interested, that's on our RFP site, on our website, and it's publicly available, can be shared. And anybody who's interested can submit an answer by March 20th. We did just this week have a couple items approved at the City Council Board of Finance, including creation of the new PUC compliance and counsel position, as well as an update to our financial analyst position. Those 2 positions will be posted in the very near future. We also got approval to do a full 10 years for the hydro contract that you all approved, the initial 5-year term with Relevate. We're in the final stages of hopefully completing that work, maybe this week, maybe next week. We're working to finalize that. But that was approved at City Council. And then the net zero and energy and grid reliability revenue bond issuance resolution that's here this evening will be going to Board of Finance later this month, and then City Council in early February. A few different regulatory and legislative items that I wanted to cover, one of which was in here in December. We filed what's called our DRP, our Demand Resource Plan. We actually did a lunch and learn in this room about it today for our own team. But that's our 3-year plan, budget and performance plan for 2027 through 2029 for our efficiency utility. Relatedly, we're hoping to go into the legislature in the next couple weeks to testify on a request to extend the Efficiency Modernization Act, which in our DRP, we submitted 2 plans, one with that extended and one without. If that is not extended, there's something like 1.7 million of customer programs that we will not be able to offer in the 27 to 29 timeframe, including our boosted EV incentives, boosted heat pump incentives, geothermal well testing program, EV charging for multifamily and rental properties, a new proposed income qualified electric panel upgrade program. So we're hoping that the legislature will, at no cost, extend this program and give us the regulatory flexibility to continue with what we're calling Plan B of the DRP instead of the version where we don't have those programs. I'll stop there if there's a question.
Can I ask a question on that? So, to make sure I understand it, so the funding would remain the same, but you would just have fewer qualified programs?
Yeah, and this actually gets to something that's related to a couple different things. So the what we call the TEPF, Thermal Energy and Process Fuels Fund, has traditionally been available to the efficiency utilities, both us and Efficiency Vermont, to serve unregulated fuel customers, which statewide, there are a good number of propane and oil and wood heat customers. In Burlington, we're 98 to 99% natural gas. So we've had a very limited market for those customers. And traditionally, we ended up not being able to fully utilize our allotment of the funds, and they'd go back to the state for other purposes. Back in the 2018-2019 timeframe, we first got flexibility to use a portion of those funds to support feasibility studies on the district energy project at the time. in 2021, coming out of the pandemic, and then through 2026, we've had 2 successive legislative pilots that allowed us to use those funds for the broader array of incentives, the types of things I was just talking about here. And that authority runs out in 2026. So absent the extension, we would be back in a position where we'd be very limited using those funds for the handful of oil and propane customers that we have, mainly for weatherization programs, zero energy modular homes at the North Avenue Cooperative. And, you know, relatedly, we had a docket opened on Christmas Eve by the PUC because we don't typically meet the performance metric for that program. When the performance metric being spending a certain amount of money and getting a certain amount of benefit in that sector. We haven't met it, I think, dating back to 2015, so before I was even at BED. And they sought an assessment of whether we should have an early performance assessment of our efficiency utility based on, in part, not meeting that metric. We have a response granted an extension for responses that were originally due January 9th at the request of the Department of Public Service, and responses are due coming up January 26th, I believe. So we're working on a response for that because we don't think that that's necessarily a good metric or policy to be judged on how many customers show up for a program that you're providing a budget for, that you're doing outreach. We have partnerships with Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity, with the North Avenue Co-op, with Efficiency Vermont, with CBOEO to get the word out about these programs and make offers to customers. But ultimately, customer demand drives the program participation. So we're working as well. We submitted a performance metric update for our current period because this PUC is a backward-looking docket. For our current period, we've submitted a performance metric update to try to reduce the amount of budget and the amount of performance that's expected because we've seen out 2 years out of the 3-year period, which runs 24 to 26. We're not getting the customer demand in that segment that we would otherwise hope for. And we're considering offering a proposal in yet another docket that would affect the 27 through 29 timeframe that maybe could consider different ways to judge our regulatory performance or have different paradigms for that particular program. So that's a challenge. But on the flip side, if we're able to keep this flexibility within the broader program to do these other great things that we can do regardless of the customer's pre-existing fuel source, whether they're natural gas or oil or propane, then that's outstanding. And we're hopeful to work with the legislature on that. We are going to be, in particular, Amber, who's online there, is going to be testifying for us tomorrow in the Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee on portable solar, which is this, or they sometimes call it balcony solar, these small 1.2 kW, like couple panels that can plug into a regular outlet and feed energy back through. So there's legislation to support that. We'll be supportive of it. We have a few questions for implementation purposes. But that could be something that maybe, particularly in properties in Burlington that are rental properties or where there might be a slate roof or a historic home and you can't do something on the roof, maybe this is an option for folks who want to participate with solar. So we're excited about that. And I think lastly, but maybe by far the most significant item that we want to share this evening publicly for the first time with the commission and with the public is we talked, I think, a little when Lincoln was presenting about, Connecticut renewable credits. As the commission knows, as of Q4 of 2025, we're not eligible in Connecticut to sell credits into that market pending an RFP that was going to be issued that we're eligible to bid for and that we still intend to bid for, but that hasn't been issued. And we're still waiting on kind of what the process is going to be in Connecticut. But as we saw with the REC error that we had back in 2024, where we had a $1 million or so impact for not having the RECs properly entered in that period, the access for McNeil to premium renewable energy credit markets very important for the financials, for our ratepayers, for our customers, and for our flexibility to do things with the plant in the future. So back in October, we submitted a petition in Maine for qualification of McNeil under their renewable portfolio standard as a Class 1 and Class 1A resource. And their standard basically says that you can qualify for those renewable energy credits if you're a facility that was nearing the end of life and you've made a certain level of investment to keep the facility operating, to keep renewable energy on the grid in New England. There are a couple different dates in there. One's a 2005 date, one's a 2019 date. So we submitted a petition there with the help of our counsel from Connecticut, who's also admitted to practice with the Maine PUC and has practiced the Maine PUC before. And we had a process there that culminated in December 15th with a granting of that petition. And so we've been doing some work to make sure that the renewable credits are properly kind of accounted for within the NEPOOL GIS system, that we have the check mark within that system that we need to have. But we're qualified dating back to July of 2025 for Maine Class 1 and Class 1A RECs, which are, in terms of trading, trade very close to what Connecticut RECs trade for. So this is, I can't understate or overstate, I should say, this is really good financial news for our customers. This will make sure that for fiscal year 26, which would have been impacted by that last quarter of 2025, that we can be, made whole with our projections of what we were planning to land on, and that going forward in future fiscal years, we'll continue to have access to this market, which is important. So good news for our customers. We're very, very appreciative of a number of folks here who worked on this petition and provided information for it. And we'll provide more information in a later item on the agenda, an executive session about rec trading and our strategies overall. But wanted to share in public for the first time here that good news about McNeil. And I'll stop
Nice.
with that.
So we'll move to some questions, and I'm going to ask the first one, which is there a time limit on the main RECs? Does this expire after 5 years, or?
There is not. So we're qualified. Now, policy can change, as we saw in Connecticut, in any state at any time. So you have to be conscious of that. And there's some pressure on state renewable standards just generally because the federal government is canceling offshore wind projects and reducing the amount of renewables that's coming online in the region. But this is not a time-limited approval. It dates, as I mentioned, in the NEPOOL system back to July of 2025. But we're now qualified as a resource, can participate in that market going forward.
Excellent. Thank you. Commissioners?
Just a question between what's driving Maine such that it's a positive for Burlington Electric, I understand, which is great, versus Connecticut wanting to get out of this market. Why the differentiation between the two?
Yeah, each state has very much like their own kind of objectives when they look at their renewable standards. The provision in question in Maine, I think, was very much intended to support keeping renewable energy that's online, as opposed to having it come offline and then having to replace it with other projects. So they had a provision there. Connecticut is still allowing wood energy to qualify, but only through this RFP process. So they also narrowed their overall renewable standard in Connecticut. So they were shrinking the amount that they were requesting, and within doing that, they also narrowed some of the categories that they allowed to qualify. Maine, I think, has a longstanding renewable standard, has long been supportive of hydropower and of wood energy as well. Vermont has its own very ambitious renewable standard, but ours is very broad. And so within certain categories, the values may be less than what they are in other states. So each state has its own very much unique market. There's not necessarily a lot of symmetry between them. And in this case, qualification in Maine was great. New Hampshire has a incremental renewable, kind of a program where if you were to do certain things that added generation to an existing facility, you can qualify for certain types of treatment in New Hampshire. So they each have their own, variations like that.
Maine is interesting is that they're trying to promote existing capacity staying online longer versus what I would expect is the more traditional, as you said, for New Hampshire is giving you credit for bringing new stuff online.
Exactly. Yeah. There's balances between those different factors. That's right.
Great. Other commissioners with questions?
Great news.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Darren. All right, now we move on to agenda item 7, and we're going to get our financials update. So, Emily, if you'd like to come up. Imagine you're going to be with us for a while now.
Right, good evening. These are the financial results for the electric department for as of November FY26. So you can see, just get to my notes, hang on. Go. So in November, we had an actual net income of 1.1 million as opposed to a budgeted net income of 909,000. So that was $223,000 variance favorable versus budget. For the year to date, we're looking at an actual net income of 2.9 million as opposed to projection of 1.2 million at this point in the fiscal year. So that's a positive variance of 1.6 million. In November, sales to customers were favorable compared to budget by $110,000. Other revenues, modest variance of 78,000, most of that being EEU reimbursement. And power supply revenues, also known as REC revenues, unfavorable variance of $123,000, most of that due to lower volumes available for sale as opposed to what was budgeted in terms of volumes.
Can I ask a question there? Why is McNeil so much lower than expected in terms of production?
This would be going back 6 months to, I think this is November, so this would be,
Because this month it was, or this past month it was way down too, correct?
Do you mean December?
Yeah.
Yeah, December we
December.
had a couple of outages. One because of the
Oh, okay, you're
gearbox
asking it,
issue,
okay.
and we may have talked about that gearbox issue previously. And another one due to some boiler tube leaks that happened the day after Christmas, and we had to get welders on site. We had to get a scaffolding company on site. Took about a week plus to get everything repaired and to do tests and then to find additional leaks and finish those tests. So McNeil's been back online since, what was it, the 5th maybe of January? But we did have a couple periods in December where we were offline for a
Okay.
little bit.
Yeah, I can't see where I
so
saw that.
there's, yeah, I misunderstood your question, I'm
Oh.
sorry. There's a 6-month lag,
Right, on the Rex.
right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, so I asked it at the wrong time.
no, that's okay. I was answering what happened 6 months ago when you were actually asking what happened this month. And I don't remember what happened 6 months ago,
Me
honestly.
neither.
All right, moving down into operating expense. Net power supply expense was favorable to budget by 478,000. In November, McNeil ran less than budgeted, so we saved on fuel by $500,000. Flip side of that was purchase power was up 147,000. Transmission helped us out by 81,000. And then other O&M, negative variance versus budget, 191,000. Some of that's labor and some of that is timing of outside services. And nothing really significant in terms of variances for the other lines. So I will pause there before going to the next slide if there's any questions. Okay. Hearing none, I'll move down to capital spending for the year to date. The 3.3 million, we had budgeted to have spent 7.8 million at this point in the year. We're spent 22% of the full year fiscal year budget. Timing, a factor here. Not all expenses recorded as of November for the McNeil outage. Some McNeil projects were budgeted to be in the fall, but they're not going to happen until the spring. FERC relicensing is running under budget. And then at Winooski 1, there was just over $400,000 budgeted for some retorquing of the dam. We were able to do that in-house, and it didn't take very long. So that's going to be a favorable variance in the production budget. In the distribution budget, availability of transformers is a big timing issue, as well as timing of some major projects, including DeForest Road and the ADMS system. In the general plant category, most of the timing is driven by the IT forward software implementations and the electric forklift, which we have ordered.
Yes.
Or are about to order, but delivery
coming yet.
delivery is now not expected in FY26. It'll be next fiscal year before we receive it. So as of November, we had just over 8.3 million in operating cash. That's pretty significantly below budget by 4.42 million. Couple of things to note on that, reasons I'm not concerned. Number one is just over 3 million of that variance is the timing of the receipts of the GO bond. I think I mentioned that last year.
Yep.
That was issued, cash received in December, those proceeds. So that will it positively affect the December results. Also in December, we submitted 2, not 1, revenue bond requisitions, each about a 600,000. So there's 1.2 million of drawdown from the construction fund that came in December. So expect that December cash to be closer to budget. And then the Moody's rating factors, regular debt service coverage ratio at 4.79, adjusted at 1.22, with 118 days cash on hand, including the line of credit. Any questions?
So I have a question. As far as the cash on hand issue, sounds like there's about 3 million that is not yet in the financial statements because it came in December. Is that accurate? 3.2? So is there still about $1 million off?
I would say the other million is the 1.2 million of revenue bond drawdown.
Okay. So we're at a kind of getting
I
back
think
to
we'll be-
whole there.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And you're not concerned, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think, well, I can explain, I guess what I'm to tell you is that I can explain all of that difference. The fact that McNeil was offline in December, coupled with the energy prices that we saw in December, right? December itself may have created a different set of issues that
Sure.
would affect cash negatively, potentially. So we'll see where we are next month.
Okay. Tune in
But in
next
terms of
episode.
where we ended in November, I kind of feel like I know why.
Great.
So, yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Other questions?
I have a question on the debt service aspect. Can you just help me understand why the standard ratio is so high while the adjusted rate is so much lower? And maybe what would you see as the ideal there for the adjusted rate?
Yes. Let me pull up a spreadsheet that will answer this. Well, while I'm doing that, the simple answer is that the adjusted ratio counts less revenues as available. So for the non-adjusted, you calculate basically your net income available for revenue debt service, and you do a ratio on that compared to your debt service, right? So how much money do you have available to cover your debt? So, but what's included in the net income available for paying debt service is different between the regular ratio and the adjusted ratio. So this is DA 31. Hang on a second.
I would say while you're pulling it up, I could offer that in terms of what's ideal, the debt service coverage ratio, the bond resolution, which we'll actually be talking about a little bit, requires a 1.25 for the debt service coverage ratio. Obviously, we're at
Right.
well over 4, so we meet and exceed that very much regularly and have not been in jeopardy of that issue during my entire time at BD, and I think well before that. So with that one, you always need to have a 1.25, but obviously you hope to be much, much ahead of that. And for the adjusted ratio, you can see the delta is, an A rating is 1.5, a BAA is 1.10. We've been hovering 3 years at 1.26. So we've always been just a touch below that particular metric on the Moody's rating for the A metric. There's a bit of a range, if I recall, on the scorecard between like a 1.3 and a 1.7. So certainly if we were able to get that a 1.5 to 1.7, we might be able to increase our Moody's rating and upgrade our Moody's rating. But to do so would require some significant steps that, beyond what we're doing currently on rate trajectory and things like that. Whereas we do not want to see that drop below, certainly we don't want to see it drop below a 1.0, but we'd really like to keep it above that 1.10 on the 3-year running average. So we're above that BAA rating and we're closer to where the A rating is.
Okay, yeah, and I was just wondering if it's reflecting whether we're covering costs for the long run with the difference, that like big delta in the adjusted versus regular coverage ratio.
Yeah, so the primary difference is that for the adjusted, your pilot is not deducted. So payment in lieu of taxes. So for the regular debt ratio, you start with your operating revenues, you take out your operating expenses, but then you put back in depreciation because that's OpEx, but it's not cash. You're allowed to put back in gain loss on plant, again, operating expense, but not cash. And you're allowed to put back payment in lieu of taxes, which is, but then for the adjusted one, the pilot stays out. So there's a difference of like $2.7 million in terms of revenue available for debt service between the regular one and the adjusted one.
So you think it's fine as is, and it'll probably stay pretty level?
Which
the adjusted versus
oh yeah, they will always diverge because
that much.
yeah.
Okay.
Some things are in, some things are out.
Right, exactly.
It sounds like it's financial requirements.
It's definitional. Yeah. The plain debt service coverage ratio is calculated based on the language in the general bond resolution that allows issuance of our revenue bonds. So that's where the 1.25 comes from. It's also where the direction on how you calculate that ratio is specified there. Whereas the adjusted debt service coverage ratio is done according to Moody's methodology, which they update from time to time. It hasn't changed in a while, but
it's different.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's different.
Okay.
Thanks, Emily.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Does that conclude the financial update?
It does, unless there are any further questions.
I don't believe there are. So
I just had one question on the strategic dashboard on the arrearages. Those are going up pretty significantly. Is there any sort of dialogue or commentary on that? And I love the new format.
Thanks. So yes, we've been tracking the growth in arrearages, and customer care has been making efforts to do more outreach around that. I was glad to see that they dropped by about 40,000 this month compared to last month. So at least they've started going in the right direction. Hopefully that continues. It's a matter of using, I think, all the tools in the toolkit, as well as taking the time required. We have to follow certain processes for notice before disconnect. But I know Mike Kenrick is prioritizing this as much as he can with the team, and has been working particularly with some commercial customers that have kind of higher outstanding balances to develop some payment plans and get those reduced. Anything you want to add on that?
No, that's exactly right. And yeah, disconnects in the winter are much more limited. So
Right.
that is unfortunately one of the tools in the toolbox that you have to support collecting what's outstanding. And so you may see some fluctuations in the wintertime that might not be present in the shoulder seasons, for example. But we agree, it's been an issue we track weekly in our leadership meeting, and we were reporting out each week on progress towards reducing that volume.
Great. Okay.
Thanks.
Any further questions? Okay. So now we're going to move on to agenda item 8, which is the 2026 Net Zero Energy and Grid Reliability Revenue Bond Resolution. Welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Zoe. I'm an attorney at Paul Franklin Collins.
Right, so I'll say a few things and I'll turn it over to you, Kathy. Thanks for joining us this evening. So I mentioned earlier the general bond resolution, which was adopted by the Electric Commission in 1981, I believe. That is the governing document or instrument that allows the electric department to issue revenue bonds. It requires that for new issuances that the board, as well as the Board of Finance and City Council, adopt an issuance resolution authorizing the new money. I have some slide presentation things on the use of the funds. Would you want to do that first, Kathy, or do you want to take them through the resolution and then go to the...
Yeah, I mean, I can say a couple of general things first before we get into the nitty gritty of what the money is going to be used for. So I believe myself and my colleague Thomas Maloney were here last year presenting a very similar resolution for the refunding of the 2014 A bonds. This time we are going to be issuing, the request is to issue new money. This 20 million is from the November 2024 voter approval that was received. And so generally, as Emily mentioned, every time, we're issuing debt, whether or not it's refinancing or new money, we need to adopt a supplemental resolution under the general bond resolution. So what you have here is very similar to what was presented last year in connection with the refunding bonds. Like last year, this supplemental resolution gives some flexibility to BED whether or not these bonds are issued through the bond bank or whether they're issued in like a private placement or a public offering independently. I think we're headed towards bond bank issuance just because of, the bond bank's credit rating versus BED's credit rating. And it helps, simplify it cuts down on some offering costs. But, again, the supplemental resolution provides the flexibility. So for whatever reason, if it looks like rates are not going to be good under, issuing through the bond bank, which I don't expect to happen, this again gives the flexibility for BED to pivot and, change course.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, just getting myself organized here. All right, so wanted to share go. Okay. So voters authorized $20 million. That's what we are seeking authority to issue. And as indicated in the ballot item, as well as in the language of the resolution before you, I believe, as well as the public outreach we did at NPA meetings and other venues, we're planning to use the money to invest in kind of 5 or 6 major areas. First one and primary one is our distribution plant. So poles, wires, transformers, switches, that sort of thing. Second major category is electric fleet vehicles. This would include the forklift that was mentioned earlier, electric forklift, a second electric bucket truck, and then some lighter duty fleet vehicles as well. Thirdly, the McNeil plant, limited set of investments here, limited to replacement for the NOx catalyst. That's on in the FY26 budget, and as well as potentially subject to joint owner approval, to be added to the 26 outage, replacement of the heat sink that's associated with the catalyst. And then the $20 million amounts in the outer years are for electric vehicles for our foresters.
20,000.
The 20,000 in 27, 28, 29. Several projects at the Winooski 1 hydro, including the continuation of paying for costs associated with our FERC relicensing of that facility, obviously critical to being able to maintain that as a generating plant. And then the small dam is scheduled for replacement in FY27, and then some generator refurbishments as well. With IT, those the projects are a big piece of them are our IT forward, our enterprise system upgrades and replacement projects. There are also switches, routers, AMI system equipment, firewalls, and the like. And then demand response would be distributed energy resources and software to manage those distributed energy resources. New category, for this bond that we would be seeking the authority to use these funds for, would be to finance our Tier 3 incentives. Previously or currently, we are funding those through the GO bond funding. When we issued the 2022 revenue bond, there was a change made to the overall bond resolution that redefined or expanded the definition of what projects could be funded using revenue bonds to include strategic electrification, aka Tier 3. So we're including Tier 3 incentives as possible uses of the funding in this proposal. What I've shown you here is a example of how the money would be allocated. So the 2022 construction fund, as of end of December, has about $1.8 million left in it. We're essentially spending the interest that we've earned. We've already spent the sort of the 20 million in principal, but interest rates were good when we first issued that money, and we've been able to earn some interest. So I'm anticipating that construction fund will be drawn down by end of February, I estimate. So then we would be using this new money to fund projects through the end of FY26. And I'm forecasting about $2 million. And then in 27, 28, 29, about $6 million. And this is based on the rate of drawdown that we've actually seen for the 2022 revenue bond. It's sometimes been higher, sometimes been less, but around $6 million a year. That said, and I'll pull up in a minute the detailed list of projects, as long as we use the bonds for allowable tax-exempt purposes that are consistent with the list of projects as initially proposed, they can be substituted, right? So it can be an upgrade on this street, but not that street. You could, do a different generation project at Winooski 1 than the one that we're thinking we're going to do in FY28. As long as they're similar in nature and still meet the tax exempt requirements of the bond, the money is fungible across the projects. So this is not necessarily set in stone, but it's to give you an idea that these are the types of expenditures we project to make, the different types of plants or physical plants that will be improved, as well as the general trajectory of drawdown. For context, at the bottom, I've added the row that shows we get, the GO bond funding of $3 million, assuming that continues. And the total forecast capital need is pretty high in this 5-year plan, starting around 12 million, 13 next year in FY27, and then kind of sticking around 12 in 28, 29. So The revenue bond will provide, between 17 to 50% of that over the next 3 and change fiscal years. The geo bond will provide about a quarter. And then we'll have an unfunded percentage that we'll need to manage through the annual budget process, essentially, of anywhere between, 60 to 25%. So some of that could be met with cash if we have the funds, but that's where the annual budget process will come in, where we'll do that analysis to say, okay, here's the capital need, here's the funding available. How much can we draw from cash, or do we need to preserve cash in order to keep that Moody's cash metric strong? And therefore, the capital budget needs to stay within certain bounds. Any questions at this point about the projects? And I
Well,
can,
just one question.
Mm-hmm.
I know in some of the stuff they talked about battery, and is any of that considered in these numbers? Is it in there somewhere?
we don't
the
have a
batteries.
battery project in there, not a utility scale battery. We do have the distributed energy resource.
But not the big
Yeah, a utility scale battery, as has been mentioned, we have proposals that we've received. Probably the business model there is going to be sort of a turnkey development, and we'll have a PPA for use of the asset,
Okay. So
but we
it'll
would
be a
not expend the capital.
no investment. type of
Yeah,
operation.
exactly.
Okay, that's fair.
And the PPA would, take into account the proposal costs, and can they
But
take
it's
advantage of the
ongoing-
tax credit
yeah,
and that
it's
sort of thing.
ongoing operating cost at that
That's
point,
right. Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be a power supply
Yep.
expense, and we'd use it to offset capacity charges and transmission
Okay, so I
charges.
don't expect to see any battery.
That's right.
Are there other questions?
Okay.
I have one question on the McNeil projects. How does that, since it's shared ownership, how does that work with the bond and allocation?
Yeah, so this would be to fund our 50%
Okay.
of those projects.
And
that's
those
what-
are approved, the 26 is approved. Correct? I know.
The 26 calendar year budget was approved by the commission, and we operate on a fiscal year basis, so our budget kind of crosses calendar years, but the McNeil plant runs on a calendar year
Right.
basis. And we do anticipate updating, as I think we may have shared during the calendar year budget, we anticipate updating the calendar year budget with the joint owners in February. And if that happens, we'd come back here as well, particularly on 2 projects, one of which would be the heat sink that's part of this capital item. Yeah. And I think Lincoln showed it to you in one of his photos at the beginning, when he said the steel contraption that knocks with the big stack there, that's the heat sink that I think he was showing you that needs replacement.
Commissioner Moody, do you have any questions?
I'm good.
All right. I have a question. The tier 3 part, can you maybe just briefly dig in on that, and then maybe is it our standard practice to pay basically incentives off of a capital bond? It seems like it's kind of mixing operational and capital. And maybe you spoke to that and I just didn't understand it. But I'm wondering if you can speak to why we're doing that, and if it's are we kind of putting this on a credit card? If we, it's normally something that we would handle within an individual fiscal or program period.
Right, yep. And we did, prior to, I think we made this change in FY21 or 22. So what we did in 21 or 22 is we moved from accounting for both tier 3 credits and tier 1 renewable energy standard compliance credits from a cash basis essentially or an OPEX basis to inventory accounting. Thought being that tier 1 recs have a bankable life of 3 years, I believe, and tier 3 credits never expire under current Vermont law. And so we have every year exceeded our tier 3 compliance goal. So every year we've been banking some tier 3 credits for use in some future year when maybe we haven't done enough program activity to cover our compliance obligation, which goes up every year per the Vermont Renewable Energy Standard. So what we started doing in FY21 or 22 is we used to, pay the $100 rebate, expense the $100, and so if we did more program activity than we needed to comply, we had higher compliance expense than we needed to record, right? And so what we've done is we're only expensing what we need to based on compliance cost for that year, based on our obligation. And then any excess we're recording on the balance sheet as an inventory asset. And Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, actually, their accounting guidance for these types of environmental credits changed this year, such that they said, hey, everybody, this is how you should do it. So we were lucky and did it first. But what that also does is it aligns essentially the life of the asset, right, more with the life of capital financing, and allows you to access capital financing, or allows you to say it's more reasonable to use capital financing because I'm using long-term financing to create a long-term asset, as opposed to the point you raised, which wouldn't make so much sense, to use that long-term financing to fund a current expense.
Thank you very much. That's very, very helpful.
Yeah, very welcome.
Great. Okay, I think we were good on questions, so we'll keep moving, I guess,
Okay.
to the,
Yeah, I think I'll just add one more thing. I'll stop sharing, but we have done the preliminary analysis on the useful life of the different potential projects, which, just for fun, there's about 123 or so. And on a weighted average basis, considering the useful life as well as the planned expenditure between FY26 and FY29, we're coming up with a weighted average of about just over 52 years for the assets. So that compares favorably with the 20-year life of the debt service.
great.
And then maybe I'll turn it to you, Kathy.
Yeah, the only other thing that I want to mention, I forgot to mention it earlier, is so we have the option of issuing through the bond bank. To the extent that we issue through the bond bank has something called the intercept, which sounds really sci-fi and all that, but what it essentially is if a municipality that borrows through the bond bank's pooled financing program defaults on a loan because it can't pay like principal or interest, the bond bank has the power to have the treasurer intercept any other funds that may be due to that municipality to kind of pay those unpaid payments of principal or interest. For the intercept, so this is going to be a revenue bond. The bond bank's intercept can be used to intercept just general funds that are due to the city, and so the supplemental resolution has a provision that basically says, in the event that BD for whatever reason can't make principal or interest payments, and the city funds are intercepted to pay that, then BD would still be responsible for compensating the city for any funds that may have otherwise been due to the city that were intercepted. There's a lot of things in the general bond resolution that kind of protect against that. We have to fund the debt service fund in advance. We also have a debt service reserve fund, so this is kind of a remote possibility, but just wanted to make the commissioners aware that was something.
Great, thank you. Is there any more to present, or have you concluded?
I think maybe one thing to also mention in the bond resolution is the supplemental resolution is that so pricing and closing through the bond bank have not precisely been scheduled yet, but are anticipated either late February or early March. But the resolution does provide that if the true interest cost of these bonds is greater than 6.5%, then additional prior approval for the Board of Finance and City Council would be required. So essentially have the go with this supplemental resolution would give us the go ahead to issue for the bond bank as long as the pricing indicates an interest rate less than that.
Yes, the supplemental resolution delegates the authority to like determine, for interest rate or payment schedule, things like that, to the CAO and the general manager of BED. So as long as we stay under that 6.5 threshold, we wouldn't have to go back to city council essentially.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate all of that. So, is there a motion related to item number 8 that someone would like to make? It's the one Commissioner Moody has in front of him.
I move that the Burlington Electric Commission approves to adopt supplemental resolution 19 as presented and recommend its adoption to the Board of Finance and City Council.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Commissioner Moody, thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those none opposed, so it passes. Thank you.
Before we move on, we're getting at least from James, who's one of the members on the team online, that he's not getting audio.
Oh.
I don't know if
Say hi
it's
to
just
Thomas, we miss him.
I don't know if it's just him or I don't know, Mike or Amber, if you can confirm if you're getting audio.
This is Mike, and I'm hearing everything loud and clear.
It might be that James was trying to say something and
Hmm.
couldn't hear him.
Oh, Amber says audio is good for her too. All right, might be an issue for James individually. Deal with that offline. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
He can hear not.
Oh, well,
Okay, so our next agenda item certainly involves James, and so do we need to recess while we address this technical issue, or do we feel like we can proceed?
James, can you try to say something there?
Testing.
We hear you. Okay.
Well, I don't know why it didn't work before. I was trying to offer some commentary on something that was just coming up and on the rec and the res banking and inventory, but
All right.
nothing was going through apparently.
Okay. Well, hang there for a
And I don't know if Emily has my PowerPoint ready to present or not.
Yep, hang on. We're not in executive session yet, so hang on 1 second.
And looking at,
Okay, but I'm just checking to make sure we're ready.
Yes, we are. We will
looking
be.
at this, is the rest of our meeting in an executive session? Is that what I'm
Not
saying?
completely, because we will have to come out of executive session for a vote, but we do have 2 executive sessions. That's
Yep, so we'll go in, we'll come back out, and if approved, we'll go in again, and then, yeah, so thank you for calling that out, Scott. Okay, so, do you want to speak to, someone want to speak to this in a general sense before we entertain a motion for executive session?
I would just offer, we're on the rec item now.
This is item number 9, proposed executive session on continued delegation of rec sales for a rolling 5-year period.
Yep. So we've, I think, done this several times previously with the commission, where we've sought and received the ability under the commission's delegated authority from the city council to enter into rec transactions on a rolling 5-year basis. So we'll share in executive session more details that are not appropriate from a market standpoint to share in public with the commission in executive session. But that's the topic that we're planning to discuss.
Okay, just for the public's benefit, can you explain what you mean by that from a market perspective? Is it fair to say that it would disadvantage us in a commercial negotiation to kind of show our cards publicly?
Yes, absolutely. If we were to discuss quantity, volumes available, prices, it would potentially disadvantage us with other market participants who might be counterparties. So this is a pretty standard contractual reason to go into executive session.
Thank you for explaining that. So is there a motion regarding executive session?
I'll make the motion. Move to find that premature general public knowledge of the commission's discussion regarding the proposal to enter into rec sales for a rolling 5-year period would clearly place the Burlington Electric Department at a substantial disadvantage per Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Moody. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Is there, we now need a second motion. Is there a second motion?
Move that the commission enter into executive session to discuss the proposal to enter into rec sales for a rolling 5-year period under the provisions of Title I, Section 313. I think A needs annotated. 1A of the Vermont statutes.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay. As far as discussion, I'm going to make a point of discussion, and that is the commission and relevant electric department staff. So I move to amend the motion to include staff because I think it's just a technical oversight. But is there a, I don't know if does that require a second?
Friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment to the motion
Yeah.
accepted by the maker.
Accepted?
Yeah.
I think I made the motion. Or no,
Or
you made the motion.
I made the
originally.
Commissioner,
Accepted
do you
by-
accept my
accepted.
friendly amendment? Okay, great. So I think we can, is there any other discussion? Is there, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. We're now in executive session. So we exited executive session, and now we're going to move on to item number 10, which is a vote on continued delegation of rec sales for a rolling 5-year period. So is there a motion? Does anyone want to offer a motion?
I'll motion. I move that the Burlington Electric Commission delegate to the general manager authority to purchase and sell renewable energy credits, RECs, for a rolling 5-year period, including RECs produced in the current calendar year at any point in time, and the succeeding 4 calendar years.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, then we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, so it passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is number 11, which is a proposed executive session on cybersecurity. I think, it's probably the reasons why we wouldn't discuss cybersecurity in open session are fairly obvious, but Eric, I'm wondering if you can just offer a few comments about this before we move into, just for the public's benefit, until we move into executive session.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
So this is what I expect to be the first of a regular briefing of our current status and what we're working towards and some of the metrics that support
Great.
those reports.
Thank you. So is there a motion related to an executive session on cybersecurity?
I move to find that premature general public knowledge regarding cybersecurity would clearly place the Burlington Electric Department at substantial disadvantage per Title I VSA 313A10 of the Vermont statutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Any discussion on the motion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's 4. That was an aye, correct, Commissioner Kenny?
Yeah.
Okay, that's 4 ayes. That passes. So now we need a second motion to actually move into executive session. Is there a motion? Anyone wish to offer a motion?
I'll offer it. I move that the commission enters into executive session to discuss cybersecurity under the provisions of Title I, VSA 313A10 of the Vermont statutes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Boda?
That was a typo there. Sorry.
I'll turn that there.
Sorry to cut you off. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, passes 4-0. We're going to move into executive session again. So we've exited executive session. It's 7:33 p.m. We're back on our regular agenda, and we're going to land with our final item is item number 12, which is commissioners check-in. And do any commissioners wish to speak in the commissioner check-in?
Yeah, I wanted to say a few things because I've spent some time the last few days. Thank you, Elena, for forwarding on those wonderful emails that were going to Bradley Williams and whoever he is
Yes.
to me. And so, yeah, so I did some reflection on both Darren's comments and the comments from both of the public folks that came in there. And it's something for the future that I want to mention that I'm looking at it, and this is one of the areas that I've had a background in before, is looking at forward probabilistic, can't be any greater than, can't be any less than, impacts, levers on what the performance, in particular for McNeil, which is what the public comments about. There's something to be brought there that I know I have some expertise on. So it's just something that in the future, when we get around to those kind of discussions, I've already been doing some thinking on that in terms of how to model this, because we got to turn it into a forward-looking discussion. And that's as much as I will say.
Yep.
Commissioner Kenny, you have anything you want to add? Udi? I'll just add, again, we've talked about the energy assistance program multiple times, and you know, it was great to hear tonight that you know, it's this innovative effort of the staff of the electric department to extend this to you know, a broader array of people is really commendable. And so I just wanted to recognize the good work of all of you in doing that. And I think it's, you know, we kind of glossed over it quickly, but it's a big deal, and not everybody's doing this everywhere. And I think it really, it's quite a cool thing. So anyway, that's my comment. So
Thank you.
is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I don't know if that requires a second or not, but I think, well, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, we are adjourned at 7:35 PM. Thank you.